Welcome back to Reddit Tales by Uncle Sammy. I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm thankful you subscribe and keep showing up. This space is built on your insights. Leave your thoughts and lessons below. Now, cue the tension, cue the truth. Let's get into it. Before the story starts, here's a decision point I want you to notice. If someone tries to corner you with paperwork in a crowded house, especially at a family event, your safest move is not arguing. It is slowing everything down. Pressure loves noise, witnesses, and right now, a healthy boundary sounds boring. I don't sign anything without reviewing it privately. If your partner cannot say that with you standing beside them, that is not just a money problem. It is a relationship problem hiding under family tradition. The party in Columbus sounded like a room full of televisions, all playing different channels. It was late February, and the cold outside made the windows sweat from the inside. Aunt Denise's split level sat on a quiet street, where every porch light seemed to glow with somebody's routine. My wife, Brielle, had insisted we arrive early because Grandma deserves it. I carried our foil pan of macaroni and cheese in both hands, wrapped in towels like a newborn. Brielle balanced a grocery bag with ginger ale, paper plates, and a store-bought cake she kept calling backup, even though she was the one who bought it. Inside, the air was thick with fried fish, perfume, and the cinnamon spray people use to pretend winter is charming. Motown played low under the talking, soft enough to be decoration, not comfort. The living room held Grandma Corinne in her high-back chair, blanket over her knees, eyes sharp as a tack. The coffee table was a family memory table, with photos and objects laid out like proof that history had happened. A choir robe photo of Grandma, a dented biscuit tin, a tiny glass angel. Brielle placed a laminated sweet potato pie recipe card down carefully, like she was putting a promise on display. I'm Brielle Booker, 34, and I fix city buses for a living. I like problems that can be diagnosed. A squeal means a belt. A rattle means a loose bracket. You find the source, you tighten the part, you test it again. People do not work like that. People will call a crack in a wall a little settling until the whole thing shifts. Brielle is 32, a nurse practitioner, and her calm can make a crisis behave. But around her family, that calm often turns into quiet surrender. Brielle's mother, Yvonne, met us near the kitchen like she owned the doorway. She hugged Brielle long and tight, then patted my arm like I was a guest chair she didn't want to trip over. Malik, she said, stretching my name like she was checking it against a list. You made it. Then her voice softened for Brielle. Baby, you look tired. Are they working you too hard? Brielle smiled, but it was the kind of smile that served a purpose. It's fine, Mom, she said, even though her shoulders were rigid. In the dining room, Spade started up early, loud enough to make it feel like the whole house was leaning toward the card table. Uncle Reggie accused Cousin Layla of reneging before the first hand was done. Somebody shouted book, like it was a victory cry. I offered to help in the kitchen, which is the safest place for a man who wants to avoid being interviewed by relatives. Aunt Denise lifted the foil on my mac and cheese, inspected it, and nodded once. Okay, she said, like I had passed a test I did not study for. Terrell drifted toward me while I was putting extra chairs near the wall. Brielle's brother had a grin that didn't mean anything kind. Bus man, he said, slapping my shoulder a little too hard. Are you still doing that grease thing? He laughed like my job was a costume. Then he glanced at Brielle and back at me. My sister always did like projects. Brielle's face tightened for half a second. Then her polite smile snapped back into place. My chest warmed with anger, but I held it down like a lid on a boiling pot. That was my first decision of the night. Pride or timing. I could have checked Terrell right there, in front of whoever was listening, and turned Grandma's birthday into a scene about me. Instead, I swallowed it, looked at Terrell, and asked, You hungry? I made an extra mac. Terrell laughed again, disappointed I didn't give him something he could use. Brielle's eyes met mine, grateful and guilty at the same time. That look felt heavier than Terrell's insult. It said, without words, that she expected me to absorb what she couldn't stop. Grandma Corinne called me over soon after, her voice gentle but firm. Are you eating enough? She asked, eyes scanning me like she could see through skin. Because you look slimmer. I laughed and promised I was eating. She squeezed my hand and said, "Stay solid." It sounded like advice and a blessing at the same time. When I stepped away, I noticed how she watched the room, not in a suspicious way, in a managing way, like she was tracking who was smiling too hard and who was too quiet. Quick pause, because what happens next is a kind of moment that changes a marriage in one breath. If you've ever been in a room where family pressure felt like a trap, you're going to want to hear this part closely. Like this video, share it with someone who needs stronger boundaries, and subscribe for more relationship/drama stories like this. Because the next scene is exactly where everything flips. Brielle moved through the house like she belonged to every corner of it. She kissed cheeks, asked about jobs, complimented children, refilled cups. I watched her become the family version of herself. Lighter voice, shorter answers, careful laugh. I felt like I was watching my own wife through glass. When she caught me looking, she mouthed, "Later," like she knew I had questions, and like those questions would be dangerous if asked too soon. I tried to relax, but my body stayed tense, like I was waiting for a tool to slip. Around 9, my phone buzzed with a reminder about my early shift. The transit garage did not care about birthdays. I leaned toward Brielle and said quietly, "Baby, I might head out soon. I'm up at 5. Brielle's face tightened. Then her eyes flicked to her mother, and I understood it wasn't just about me leaving. "Already?" she whispered. "Can you just stay a little longer?" The request carried fear. So I nodded and stayed, even though my mind was already counting hours of sleep like coins. Near 10, I finally went to the hallway by the coat closet to grab my jacket, telling myself I would at least put it on. The hallway was dim, lined with framed family photos that smelled faintly like old wood and dust. I was halfway into my sleeve when I heard voices in the laundry room. The door was mostly closed, but sound slipped through the crack. Yvonne's voice came first, low and controlled. "He's ready to leave," she said. Aunt Denise answered, even quieter. "Then we do it now. While he's here and everybody's watching." My hand froze on the zipper. I was not trying to eavesdrop. I was trying to go home. But when you hear yourself discussed like a lever, your body forgets how to move. Denise said, "The refinance papers are printed. All Malik has to do is sign." Yvonne made a sound like she was exhausted by me already. "He won't do it unless Brielle pressures him," she said. Denise asked, "And if he refuses?" There was a pause. Then Yvonne's voice went cold. "Then we tell her what we know about that account. She'll fold. She always does." That account landed in my stomach like a stone. What account? Why did it sound like Brielle was a tool? My first impulse was to yank that laundry door open and demand answers, loud enough for the whole party to hear. But I pictured the outcome. Malik the angry husband. Malik ruined Grandma's birthday. Malik becomes a story instead of their scheme. I made my second decision of the night. Patience over explosion. I stepped back into the darker part of the hallway, pulled out my phone and texted Brielle. "Need you. Hallway. Now." Brielle didn't answer immediately. The party noise swelled and dipped. Laughter, card slaps, a child squealing. Then her footsteps came quick and light. She appeared at the end of the hallway, still wearing her polite smile until she saw my face. Her eyes sharpened. "What's wrong?" she whispered. I kept my voice low. "Your mom and Aunt Denise are in the laundry room," I said. "They're talking about refinance papers. About getting me to sign something tonight." Brielle's color drained so fast it scared me. She grabbed my wrist and guided me to the back bedroom where coats were piled on the bed. She shut the door gently, like we were trying not to wake the house. "I didn't know they were doing it tonight," she said immediately. I swear. I stared at her. "So you knew there were papers," I said, not accusing, just naming reality. Brielle sat down hard on the edge of the bed, like her legs quit. "They want us to refinance the house," she whispered. "Pull out equity. For my mom." My chest tightened. Our house wasn't fancy, but it was ours. For what? I asked. Brielle's hands twisted. "Debt," she said. "She says she could lose her place." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Why does your mother's debt belong to our home?" Brielle swallowed. She said it's temporary, she whispered. She said she'll pay it back when she gets her settlement. Temporary is how traps introduce themselves. I exhaled slowly. And what did she mean about that account? I asked. Brielle flinched like the question stung. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry yet. My student loan account, she said. The one I thought was under control. She stared at the carpet. I trusted her, she added, almost like a confession. Brielle took a breath and forced the rest out. Last year I was exhausted working nights, she said. My mom offered to help me organize my finances. She said she knew a guy who could consolidate my loan. I gave her access to look. I was tired, Malik. Brielle's voice cracked. She took out a personal loan under my name to cover her credit cards. I felt like the room tilted. I opened my mouth, then closed it because I didn't want my first words to be cruel. Brielle whispered. She said if I made it public, I would ruin the family. I sat beside her and took her hand. Brielle, that doesn't help, I said quietly. That is theft. Brielle nodded, shame washing over her face. She made it sound like I owed her silence. Brielle whispered. She said she raised me, fed me, and sacrificed. She wiped her cheeks quickly. I confronted her. She promised she was paying for it, but the balance hasn't moved. I squeezed her hand. We are not signing anything tonight, I said. Not under pressure. Not in that living room. Not because they planned a performance. Brielle nodded, but fear still sat on her face. They're going to turn everybody against me, she whispered. They're going to say I'm a bad daughter. I stared at the door, hearing the party in the other room like a distant storm. Then we'll be the villains in their story. I said, I would rather be disliked than leveraged. Brielle's eyes flicked to mine. I hate that I still want her approval, she admitted. I nodded. That's not a weakness, I said. That's training. I took a deep breath. We leave, and we will handle the facts tomorrow. We walked out together into the hallway. Yvonne spotted us immediately, like she'd been waiting for this moment. Her smile snapped. There you are, she said, touching Brielle's arm. Denise, and I wanted to talk to you two for just a second. Aunt Denise appeared with a manila envelope held like it was harmless. No drama, Denise said softly. Just a quick signature, so we can move on. The phrase quick signature made my stomach tighten. I kept my voice calm. If it's about our home, it's not a tonight conversation, I said. Denise's eyebrows rose. Who said anything about your home? Yvonne's eyes flashed, and that told me everything. Yvonne leaned in, voice sweet as syrup. We're family, she said. Family shows up. Then she glanced at me and used my mother's memory like a crowbar. Your mother would want to show up for me too. My jaw clenched. Don't bring my mother into this, I said quietly. Yvonne's smile vanished. Then don't make me the villain, she snapped under her breath. We're trying to protect Brielle. Brielle's voice rose, steady but trembling. Protect me from what, Mom? That question made the air around us thin. Yvonne's eyes darted. From stress, she said. From financial mistakes. Brielle stared at her. You mean the loan you took out of my name? Silence. Not total silence. Motown still played, Fork still scraped plates, but the space around us went still. Terrell drifted closer, with a tight grin. Aunt Denise's mouth tightened. Yvonne hissed, not here. Brielle answered, you planned here. You planned to corner Malik at Grandma's party. That was when Grandma Corinne's voice cut through, calm and firm. Yvonne, not on my birthday. Everybody listened to Grandma, even people who hated being told no. Grandma looked at me. Malik, take my granddaughter home safely, she said. Then she looked at Brielle with a gentler voice. Secrets rot, baby. Don't bring rot into your house. Brielle nodded, tears shining. Yes, Grandma, she whispered. Yvonne turned away sharply like she couldn't stand being corrected. We grabbed our coats and left with our leftovers untouched. The cold slapped my face when we stepped outside, but it felt cleaner than the air in that house. In the car, Brielle finally cried, quiet sobs, the kind that shake your whole body. I drove slow, hand steady on the wheel, letting the heater blow as if warmth could undo betrayal. The next morning, reality showed up early. Brielle's phone buzzed with texts before the sun fully rose. Yvonne sent a paragraph full of guilt and capital letters. Aunt Denise called twice and left a voicemail that began with, "I understand you're emotional," which made my jaw tighten. Terrell texted me, "You embarrassed my mother. Fix it." Brielle sat at the kitchen table in her robe, staring at her phone like it was a wound. I made coffee and slid her a mug. "We need a plan," I said. Brielle nodded slowly, and I could see her trying to turn her panic into something she could hold. We started with facts. Brielle pulled her credit report up on her laptop, hands shaking as she typed. The loan sat there in black and white. High interest, delinquent marks, balance bigger than it had any right to be. Brielle covered her mouth. "I thought she was paying," she whispered. I grabbed a yellow legal pad and started writing. Lender name, account number, dates, payment history. It was what I did at work when a bus came in with a mystery problem. "We call the lender." I said, "We freeze your credit. We document everything." Brielle looked at me like she was afraid of what documenting would mean. "If I reported as fraud, my mom could get in trouble," Brielle whispered. Her voice cracked in trouble like she was 5 years old. I took a slow breath. "Brielle," I said, "she already got you in trouble. She just hasn't let you feel it yet." Brielle stared at her hands. "She's still my mother," she said like it was a law. "And you're still her daughter," I replied. "That does not give her permission to use you." Brielle nodded, but her eyes were filled with grief. That grief was its own kind of loyalty. We called the lender on speaker. The representative sounded bored until Brielle said the words, "identity theft." Then everything became scripts and steps, affidavit, documentation, timeline. When we hung up, Brielle stared at the wall for a long time. "I spend my days telling patients to protect themselves," she said. "And I didn't protect my own name." I sat across from her. "You protected a relationship," I said gently. "You just didn't realize it was one-sided." Brielle's eyes filled again, and she nodded like the truth hurt, but also explained something that had been confusing her for years. That night, Brielle surprised me. She opened her laptop and clicked into a folder labeled Corinne. Inside were screenshots, scanned documents, and audio files. My stomach dropped. "What is this?" I asked. Brielle's voice shook. "Grandma helped me," she admitted. 2 months ago, I told her what Mom did. Grandma told me to stop arguing with feelings and start collecting proof. She said, "If your mother is going to play games, you should bring receipts. Clean receipts." Brielle clicked play on a recording. Yvonne's voice filled the kitchen. "I used your name because I had to. You'll be fine. You always land on your feet." I felt a cold spread through me. Brielle swallowed hard. "I didn't plan to use it," she said. "I just wanted to know I wasn't crazy." Her eyes met mine. "But they tried to corner you last night," she added. "So now I think I have to stop being afraid of what they call me." I watched her straighten her shoulders like she was putting armor on from the inside. "What do you want to do?" I asked. Brielle took a long breath. "I want to give my mother one chance to choose accountability," she said. "Not because she deserves comfort, but because I need to know I offered a door before I locked mine." Brielle called Yvonne and put her on speaker. Yvonne answered on the second ring, voice already sharp. "So you're calling now," she said. Brielle's voice was calm, but I could hear it trembling underneath. "You have 48 hours to meet with me and a credit counselor," Brielle said, "or I report the fraud." Yvonne laughed like Brielle was pretending to be strong. "You wouldn't dare," she said. Brielle's eyes flicked to me. Then she said quietly, "Mom, I have the recording." The silence on the line was long enough to feel like air pressure changed. Yvonne's voice finally returned, offended in a new way. "You recorded me," she whispered. She sounded like she had been betrayed. Brielle didn't flinch. "You took my name," she answered. "Do not act shocked that I protected myself." Yvonne snapped. "You're letting that man control you." My body tensed, but I stayed silent. Brielle replied, "No, I'm controlling myself." Her voice cracked on the last word, like it was a new language. Yvonne hissed. You will ruin me. Brielle's eyes filled. You ruined yourself, she said softly. I'm just refusing to carry it. The aftermath was not dramatic. It was steady pressure, day after day. Family group chats went quiet. Cousins posted vague quotes about loyalty. Aunt Denise called Brielle's job and left messages that made Brielle's coworkers look at her differently. Terrell texted me again, more aggressive, but still trying to sound righteous. Brielle started snapping at small things, an open cabinet, a misplaced towel, then apologizing immediately, ashamed of her own nerves. One night she whispered, I feel like I'm mourning someone who is still alive. I held her and listened, because the kind of grief she was carrying was older than this loan. 2 days later, I went to my barbershop on the south side, the one with the cracked leather chairs and the sports talk that never ends. I didn't go for a haircut as much as I wanted to breathe around men who understood family pressure without turning it into a joke. My barber, Leon, noticed my face. You look like you are fighting something you can't punch, he said. I told him a careful version. Refinance pressure, identity theft, family trying to corner us. Leon shook his head slowly. They love you until you become inconvenient, he said. Your job is to keep your home safe, not keep grown folks comfortable. The first high-impact scene came the following Sunday at Grandma Corinne's church. Not because church is where fights belong, but because that's where Yvonne tried to perform innocence. We went to support Grandma, sitting in the middle pew. The choir sang, and for a moment Brielle's shoulders lowered like music could unclench her muscles. After service, in the fellowship hall, Yvonne approached us in front of 2 church ladies who smiled too brightly. Brielle, Yvonne said, voice syrupy, I've been praying. Brielle held her gaze. Prayer doesn't replace accountability, she said, calm as steel. The church lady's smiles flickered. Yvonne's eyes hardened, but she kept the performance going. Yvonne leaned closer, still smiling. We don't need to put family business in the streets, she whispered. Brielle didn't whisper back. You already put it in the streets when you used my name, she replied. The room around us went slightly quieter, like people could smell tension. Grandma Corinne appeared beside Brielle, like she had been summoned. Yvonne, Grandma said gently, do not use God as a curtain. Yvonne's face tightened, and for the first time she looked small. Mama, you don't understand, she began. Grandma replied, I understand exactly. You are embarrassed. But embarrassment is not repentance. Brielle's eyes filled, not with sadness, but with relief that someone older was telling the truth out loud. That night, Grandma invited us over for tea and pound cake. Her apartment was warm, smelling like lotion and lemon cleaner. Gospel music played low. Brielle sat on Grandma's couch like she was a child again, posture careful. Grandma took Brielle's hands. Baby, she said, your mother has been borrowing shame from everybody for years. She spent it like cash. Brielle whispered, I feel guilty. Grandma nodded. You were trained to, she said. Then she looked at me. Malik, be steady, she said, but do not turn this into a war. I frowned. What do you mean? Grandma tapped the table. Firmness without cruelty, she said. Your wife needs a safe place to land, not another battlefield. The second high-impact scene came when Brielle and I sat down at a credit union with a counselor named Ms. Landry. The office smelled like printer, ink, and peppermint. Ms. Landry spoke in calm sentences that sounded like steps. She reviewed Brielle's documentation, nodded, and said, You're doing the right things. Brielle's eyes filled when someone neutral finally confirmed reality. Then Ms. Landry asked, Do you want to pursue a formal fraud claim? Brielle's throat bobbed. She looked at me, then back at Ms. Landry. Yes, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it held. When she signed the affidavit, her hand shook and she whispered, I can't believe I'm signing paperwork because my mother hurt me. Ms. Landry replied softly, Sometimes the people closest to us test our boundaries first. Leaving the credit union, Brielle sat in the car for a long time without starting the engine. If I do this, she said, she might never forgive me. I stared at the dashboard, letting her words exist without fixing them too fast. You're not doing this to punish her, I said finally. You're doing it to protect your future. Brielle swallowed. I wish you would just say, "I'm sorry," she whispered. I nodded. I wish that too, I said. But we cannot build our safety on someone else's apology. Brielle stared out at the cloudy sky. I feel like I'm choosing myself for the first time, she said, and it feels wrong. I answered, new things often do. Aunt Denise tried another angle. She asked to meet us at a diner on the east side, the kind with cracked vinyl booths and a pie case by the register. Brielle didn't want to go. She was tired of conversations that became traps. But we decided to go with one boundary. We leave the moment it turns into pressure. Denise arrived with her purse clutched tight and a calm face that looked rehearsed. Terrell came too, which told me the meeting was never just a meeting. Denise ordered tea. Terrell ordered coffee and stared at me like he was testing my patience. Brielle sat upright, hands folded, like she was trying to hold herself together through posture alone. Denise began softly. Your mother is scared, she said. She made mistakes. Brielle's voice stayed even. Mistakes don't include using my name for a loan, she replied. Denise sighed. If this goes public, it will stain the family, she said. I leaned back. So the solution is to stain Brielle instead, I said. Terrell snorted. Denise slid a manila envelope onto the table. Just look, she said. No pressure. Brielle didn't touch it. I'm not signing anything, Brielle said. Denise's smile thinned. It's about understanding, she tried. Brielle's eyes narrowed. I understand, she said. I understand you're all asking me to pay for Mom's choices. Terrell leaned forward. So you go report her? He asked, tone sharp. Brielle swallowed, then said, I'm going to protect myself. Terrell scoffed. You always were selfish. Brielle's eyes sharpened. Selfish would have been letting Malik sign those papers without telling him, she replied. Terrell's mouth opened, then closed. Denise stared at Brielle like she was seeing her for the first time. Denise tried guilt. Your mother's forever. Brielle answered, so is my name. Denise tried fear. The family will turn on you. Brielle answered, if love requires self-destruction, it isn't love. My chest tightened with pride and sorrow at the same time. We left the diner and sat in the car while the engine warmed. Brielle's hand shook. That took everything out of me, she whispered. I squeezed her hand. You did it, I said. Brielle stared ahead. It felt like I was betraying her, she admitted. And I hate that my body still reacts like she's the authority. I nodded. Because she used to be, I said, but now you're grown and you're married, and your life is not an extension cord for her problems. Brielle swallowed hard. I'm scared they'll hate me, she said. I answered honestly. They might, I said, but you won't hate yourself. That matters. The third high-impact scene arrived in a way I didn't expect. Terrell showed up at our door alone one evening, without Yvonne, without Denise, without his usual smug grin. His shoulders looked heavier than usual. Brielle opened the door and froze. What do you want? She asked, guarded. Terrell cleared his throat. I need to talk, he said. His voice sounded smaller. I stood nearby, not blocking but present. Terrell glanced at me, then at Brielle. She did it to me too, he said quietly. Brielle blinked. What? She whispered. Terrell exhaled like he had been holding it for years. Mom took out a credit card in my name when I was 19, he admitted. I paid it off. I thought it was over. His eyes dropped. Then she did it again last year. Brielle's face changed. Anger, then pain, then something like understanding. Why didn't you tell me? She asked, voice trembling. Terrell rubbed his palms on his jeans like he couldn't keep them still. Because I was embarrassed, he said. And because she always had a story. He looked at Brielle, eyes glossy. And because you were the good one, he added. The one she bragged about. I didn't want to ruin that. Brielle swallowed hard. So you mocked Malik, she said softly, to keep the focus off you. Terrell flinched, then nodded. Yes, he said. I'm sorry. The apology sounded real, because it didn't ask for anything back. Terrell shifted his weight. She's panicking, he said, because she thought you would fold like always. Brielle stared at him. Are you here to pressure me? She asked. Terrell shook his head quickly. No, he said. I'm here because I think you're right. He swallowed. She's not going to stop until someone makes her stop. Brielle's eyes filled. Then help me, she whispered. Terrell nodded slowly. Okay, he said. I will. It was the first time I saw Terrell as more than a nuisance. He was a man who had been living under the same manipulation and had chosen the wrong way to survive it. Now, he was choosing a different way. The weeks that followed were quiet but intense. Brielle filed the formal fraud claim with the lender and filed an identity theft report through the proper channels. She froze her credit. We updated passwords. We added two-factor authentication to everything. Brielle built a spreadsheet tracking every call, every letter, every name, every date. I watched her transform from shaky to focused, like a person discovering that documentation is not just paperwork. It is protection. Still, some nights she would sit on the couch and stare at nothing, then whisper, I miss the idea of her. I understood. Losing a fantasy can hurt like losing a person. Sometimes worse, because a fantasy never hurts you back. Yvonne didn't stop trying. She called Brielle's job again. She posted online about children who forget, who sacrifice for them. She sent Grandma Corinne a long text that ended with Malik is turning her against us. Grandma, bless her, didn't argue with Yvonne through text. She called Brielle and said, Baby, your mother is trying to make noise so you stop thinking. Brielle sighed. It's working, she admitted. Grandma replied, Then you make your own quiet. Turn off your phone. Eat something. Sleep. Brielle listened because Grandma's authority didn't come with a bill. Brielle's therapist helped her name what was happening. Guilt as a leash. Naming it didn't remove it, but it made it visible. 3 months after the party, an email arrived from the lender confirming the account was flagged and the delinquent marks were being removed pending final investigation. Brielle read it twice, then a third time, like she expected the words to disappear. Then she cried in the kitchen, not loud, but deep. They believe me, she whispered. That sentence cracked something open in her chest. She leaned into me and said, I didn't imagine it. I kissed her forehead. You didn't, I said. That same evening, Terrell texted Brielle a short message. Proud of you. It wasn't poetic, but it mattered. It was a crack in the family's wall of denial. A few days later, Grandma Corinne asked us to come by. Her apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and warmth. She served pound cake on paper plates and watched Brielle carefully. How are you holding up, baby? She asked. Brielle's voice wobbled. Some days I feel strong, she admitted. Some days I feel like I'm drowning in guilt. Grandma nodded. Guilt is loud, she said. Truth is quiet. Quiet does not mean weak. Then she reached into a drawer and pulled out Brielle's laminated sweet potato pie recipe card. You placed this on my memory table, Grandma said. You know why it mattered? Brielle blinked. Because it was yours, Grandma replied. Your mother keeps trying to take what belongs to you. Your name, your peace. Don't let her. Brielle cried again, but this time her tears looked like relief. Months turned into a year, and the consequences unfolded the way real consequences do. Slow and uneven. Some relatives avoided us. Some relatives quietly apologized. A couple cousins kept sending passive-aggressive messages that Brielle stopped answering. We created a rule in our marriage. No surprise commitments, no on-the-spot decisions in front of family. If anyone asked for money, signatures, or favors, our answer was always the same. We will discuss it privately and get back to you. Brielle said that sentence the first time with a shaky voice. By the 5th time, her voice held steady. I learned to support her without treating her like a fragile thing. She was not fragile. She was rebuilding. We eventually attended another small family gathering, this time at Grandma Corinne's apartment, not Aunt Denise's house. Smaller meant safer. Yvonne arrived late and sat far from us. She didn't look at Brielle at first. No apology came, but she didn't start a performance either. It was a tense peace, like a storm cloud that chose not to rain. Brielle greeted her politely. Hi, Mom, she said. Yvonne responded, hello, flat and careful. No hug, no softness. It hurt Brielle anyway. In the car afterward, Brielle stared at her hands. I wanted her to miss me, she whispered. I nodded. She misses control. I said gently, that isn't the same thing, but it can look similar. Brielle swallowed hard. I didn't fall apart, she said. I squeezed her hand. You stood, I replied. That winter, Brielle's therapist asked her a question that changed the way she spoke about her mother. What are you willing to lose to keep pretending she is safe? Brielle repeated the question to me later, sitting on our couch, blanket over her legs. I realized I was willing to lose my peace, she said. I was willing to lose my marriage's safety. I was willing to lose my own name. Her voice broke, all for the hope that she would become the mother I needed. I sat beside her and listened, because that hope is a powerful thing. It can keep you loyal to pain. Brielle took a long breath. I think I'm ready to stop hoping, she said. Not because I don't love her, but because hope has been keeping the door unlocked. Brielle wrote her mother a letter, not to send immediately, but to tell the truth in full sentences. She read parts of it to me at the kitchen table. I love you, she wrote, but I will not finance your secrets. She wrote about the way Yvonne used family as a weapon. She wrote about the way her body still reacted like Yvonne was authority. She wrote about the shame. She wrote about the night at Grandma's party, when she realized her mother planned to corner my signature like it was a prize. When she finished reading, she looked at me and whispered, Do you think I'm cruel? I shook my head. I think you're honest, I said. Cruelty would be letting her keep doing this to you and calling it love. In early spring, Brielle received the final determination. The fraudulent account was removed, the delinquent marks cleared, and her credit score began to heal. She stared at the updated report, like it was a miracle that could be revoked. Then she laughed, small at first, then bigger, because relief sometimes looks like laughter when your body finally unclenches. She ran her finger over her own name on the report like it mattered. This is mine, she whispered. My name, my future. I hugged her so tight she had to push me off to breathe. We did it, I said. Brielle shook her head slightly. I did it, she corrected, voice steady. You stood beside me. But I did it. Hearing her say that made my chest ache with pride. The most realistic twist came after that. Yvonne did not suddenly become humble. Instead, she became quieter, which was almost worse. She stopped calling Brielle's job. She stopped posting online. She stopped asking for meetings. For a moment, Brielle thought maybe her mother was changing. Then Grandma Corinne told us the truth over tea. Your mother found a new person to lean on, she said, eyes sharp. Brielle's face fell. Who? She asked. Grandma sighed. Denise, she said. Denise thinks she can manage Yvonne. Brielle closed her eyes. So the cycle continues, she whispered. Grandma nodded. Unless somebody refuses to pay the bill, she said. Brielle looked up. I already refused, she replied. Grandma smiled faintly. And that's why you're free. Terrell kept his promise in a way I did not expect. He started going to his own counselor. He stopped sending jokes about my job. One day, he showed up at the transit garage during my lunch break with a plastic container of food and a stiff apology. I was wrong, he said. About you, about Brielle, about all of it. I watched him struggle to get the words out without turning them into excuses. I used to think whoever yelled the loudest was right. He admitted, that's how Mom trained us. He looked down. I'm trying to be different. I nodded once. Being different is better than being proud, I said. Terrell swallowed and nodded, like he needed someone to say he wasn't beyond repair. Brielle, and I did not come out of this unchanged. We came out more honest. We started checking in weekly about stress, money, family contact, and boundaries, like maintenance schedules on a bus, except for our lives. Brielle started taking real lunch breaks, leaving the urgent care building to sit in her car and breathe. I stopped treating every problem like something I could fix with a tool. Sometimes Brielle just needed me to witness her grief without turning it into a plan. Some evenings she would hold Grandma's laminated recipe card and say, this is what family should feel like. And I would answer, then we'd build more of that. Our house stayed ours, not just legally, emotionally too. The last time we went to Aunt Denise's house, it was not a party. It was a brief visit to drop off food after Aunt Denise had been sick. Not seriously, but enough to remind everyone that bodies are not guaranteed. We stood in the kitchen where my Mac had once been judged, and Denise looked older, quieter. She didn't mention refinance papers. She didn't mention loyalty. She just said, "I'm sorry I tried to rush you too." Brielle stared at her, surprised. Denise swallowed. "I thought I was helping," she admitted. "But I was enabled." Brielle nodded slowly. "Thank you for saying it," she replied. It wasn't forgiveness. It was an acknowledgement. Sometimes that is the first real brick laid in a repaired wall. On the drive home, Brielle stared out the window at the passing streetlights and said, "I used to think being a good daughter meant saving her from consequences." She paused. "Now I think it meant saving myself from her." I let that sentence settle between us because it carried years. "I'm proud of you," I said. Brielle's eyes filled, and she laughed softly like she didn't know where to put the emotion. "I'm proud of myself, too," she whispered. Then she looked at me. "Thank you for staying still in that hallway," she said. "If you'd stormed in, they would have made you the villain and me the child." I nodded. "I stayed because I love you," I said, "and because pressure hates quiet." Sometimes I think about that moment with my jacket half on, my body already leaving, and my life about to change. If I had walked out without hearing them, Brielle might have been cornered alone. If I had exploded, they might have turned my anger into their cover. Instead, I listened, I texted my wife, and we chose time. The twist wasn't a recording or Terrell's confession or Denise's apology. The twist was Brielle realizing she could love her mother and still refuse to be used. That is what froze me in that hallway. Not fear, but clarity. And once clarity arrives, you cannot pretend you did not see it. Before the final moment. If the story hit you in the chest even a little, don't keep it to yourself. Somebody you know is being rushed, guilt, or cornered right now. Like, share and subscribe for more stories like this, and comment one word. Boundary. If you agree that nobody should ever be pressured to sign away their peace, especially in front of family. If you remember anything from this story, let be the pattern. Rush paperwork plus public pressure plus guilt language is not family helping. It is controlled. Brielle's turning point wasn't winning an argument. It was choosing protection over performance. Opening that folder Grandma helped her build, going to credit union, and saying, "I'm controlling me," even while her voice shook. The consequences were real. Cold group chats, grief, and a mother who never gave the apology Brielle wanted. But boundaries are not about punishing people. They are about keeping your home, your marriage, your name, your future from becoming collateral. The end.